what? I've no idea. Like, what is VR? This is where I basically said, okay, screw that. I don't want to do anything else. I was alone. It was so easy. No, I'm kidding. I mean, obviously, it was so difficult. Maybe let me start firstly, like, what do I do? I mean, you can imagine me as a sound guy who's like very oddly specialized into this three-dimensional sound, which means like, how do I earn my money for the company? I do the recordings with very funny looking microphones. Then I do the post-production with, as you can see, with very funny looking tools and VR headsets. And then I also do more and more consulting. Could be technical consulting that I talk like what hardware can you use, like what microphones and what software and how to make it better. But it could also be the creative use, like, okay, now we have the technology. What are fun things or useful things that you could do with this three-dimensional sound? And maybe you know this type of sound from the cinema. I mean, in the cinema, we have loudspeakers not only in the front, but also left, right, behind you or above you. And this is what people know from Dolby Atmos, which is like one of the technologies that allow you to have sound all around you. And sound around you's 3D audio, I would say, front, back, left, right, top, bottom. And it gets useful in, for example, 360 videos. I guess you know them from YouTube or from Facebook, where you can click around with your mouse. And it was a hype for like a few months, but then it wasn't anymore. But now VR headsets are taking off. We have the Apple Vision Pro, and all of those devices, they mimic virtual spaces which are three-dimensionally. So you could think, oh, having three-dimensional sound would make a lot of sense, and turns out it does. So I do basically sound for such experiences.
Or where were you when you had your aha moment? I think it's 10 years ago.
Nearly,
right?
Yes.
And decided to take a leap of faith and start your own company.
Yeah, it was the first time I ever wore a VR headset. It was like friends of mine basically called me and said, hey, we want to do a 360 VR project in Vietnam and Cambodia and Thailand. And we were wondering, like, how would you do the sound for this? And I was like, I've no idea. Like, what is VR? And so they showed me, and they made me wear a VR headset for the first time. And I was like, oh my God, this is the future. You can watch all around. And they just like back then showed me just like this roller coaster everybody has to see, where you throw up immediately. And the quality was, back in the days, was good. But nowadays you would be thinking, oh, this is crap. But still, I was so amazed about this technology that just puts you into a virtual space right away. But I was like, wait a second, shouldn't the sound also be three-dimensional when you have three-dimensional images in front of you? Like, how does this work? And I was so hooked by the idea of, hey, this is an opportunity where you can really change how people experience this video, like this production we were doing. You can guide them around. You can hear something behind you. And then you look around, and then you hear it in front, and you don't miss the action, and it just feels like so, just like real life. This is where I basically said, okay, screw that. I don't want to do anything else. So I basically declined every normal film production I had. I mean, I have a strong film production background. This is where I started as a normal sound guy, I say, like holding the boom microphone all the time without your arms getting tired. And also doing the post-production. But suddenly it made sense as a business to say, hey, here's a VR project. They come to me. I can say I do all the production sound from the beginning to the post-production. And in the process, I will be your contact person for any question you have. And it really worked, because for normal films, you have a whole team of sound guys. Like, there's somebody just holding the microphone. There's somebody just controlling the mixer. Then in post-production, you have those, I don't know, Foley artists, like the people that do the noises. Then you have sound designers, sound editors. And I wouldn't be able to compete with them because I'm young. I just came out from university. And suddenly I had this expertise, which, to be fair, like, doing this for a few months or a few years, like I'm not sure if you could call it expertise. Now I can call it expertise. But back then I could prove that I have more experience than anybody in Germany, because I did this Vietnam production for over 30 years. We were recording sounds and videos for a VR experience. And suddenly this whole thing of what I really enjoy doing met the criteria of, oh, this is how I can earn money. Like, people called me, hey, did you do the sound for this VR production, like for this Vietnam documentary? He was like, yeah, who are you? And I was like, yeah, sure, I can do the sound for your production. And suddenly I could charge money that where I considered, oh, I could live from that, because coming from this creative media industry, you are happy when you are paid. Like, this is the hard truth, that when you go out of university, you think, oh, now the world waits for me. But turns out it does not. And turns out if you don't have any experience, people don't wait for you. Like, they ask you, what can you bring to the table? And you can't bring anything to the table because you don't have any experience, so you don't get a job. And if you don't get a job, you don't get the experience, right? This is this vicious circle that my like people I studied with also had to struggle. So I figured, okay, but if I specialize in something, this is where I don't have to compete with so many people, and it made it easier, as mentioned, to start my first steps into becoming like a one-man show, I guess.
Yeah, I think this is so interesting because I mentor a lot of like startups, and through the years, of course, I have been in a consultant seat. And one of the biggest problems is that it's so hard for people to narrow down. Yeah. Like, they want to do everything for everybody. And I think it's really difficult to say to a person, you have to narrow down your offering. Like, they have to be ready to do it, and it sometimes takes months and years. But at least you can kind of sow a seed there as a mentor or a consultant. But it seems like you got that from the get-go. You were like, okay, this is gonna be the reason why people that I want to convince or understand what I do, it's gonna be easy for them to understand.
Yeah, I mean, I had to disappoint a lot of people, to be honest, because I was just going out of university, and in the creative industry, it's usual that you have like a final project, which could be a film, which could be a podcast or whatever. And you help each other out, right? Yeah. You say, hey, could you do, I don't know, the sound for my film? And I had so many friends that back then also were finishing their university and asked me, hey, can you also do the sound for my film? And obviously it's a student project, which is not paid, and it's a lot of work. And this is how I started. I mean, this is how I got experience to build a portfolio. This is just how it worked. But at some point I was like, I have to stop doing that. And I remember that people somehow respected it and were like, okay, we understand your decision. But still people were annoyed that suddenly I'm like too good for them to do the sound because I now want money. But I'm like, yeah, but I also want to live from it. And this is a big transition and a learning phase from, how much money can I even charge? And I feel like even in Germany, especially in Germany, there's hardly any talk like, what's your daily rate? How much can you charge? How do you even get clients? And I figured, why is nobody talking about it? And thinking about it, it's because most of the people just don't know. I talked to a lot of colleagues to like understand how did they make their way, and turns out there's no perfect way. Everybody had coincidence, like it was sometimes luck, sometimes bad luck. It's just how it happened. Nobody really planned what they did. But I figured, but how can I have more control about this process? And this is where I learned at least a little bit of how can I become a personal brand? How do I do marketing? How do I be self-conscious? How do I, or confident? Damn it. There's like, conscious is like the opposite of confident, I guess. But I did the right thing, hopefully. I learned how to be comfortable with what I'm doing. And so like this, I somehow had I would say a competitive advantage compared to other sound guys who were maybe better in recording the sound and mixing the sound, but they didn't really know how to explain to the client what are they even doing and why should I charge money for that, or even charge more money because your service is better. Most of the time they argue, oh, I have the better microphone, but if you compare two different microphones, I'm not sure if you would hear any difference. And this is just how the clients think about sound. I could just record it with a smartphone. Like, why would I even have to hire you? And this is the reality. I mean, you have to somehow communicate what's your value. And this is what I tried to learn in the last years. I mean, there's always learning. My topic is so new. It is so random. And there's always some learning. But there was so much potential and doors that I could open more easily than people who were already in the industry.
Yeah. Was it ever really difficult for you? Like, did you ever feel like, oh no, I think I'm going to go back. I think I'm just going to do like normal sound?
It was so easy. No, I'm kidding. I mean, obviously it was so difficult, but I really loved this, how do you say, like this new goal that I had. I was just finishing university and I was like, oh, okay, my dream would be to have my own studio and to do cool projects. And now I'm here, which is the next problem, because I'm like, okay, now what's next? But I guess that's something for the rest of the podcast. But from the get-go, obviously it was wild. I did so many mistakes. I mean, hardly anybody talks about that, but I did so many like wrong decisions, or like focused on, I don't know, writing a blog article instead of just getting connected, like call production companies, say, hey, are you working with VR? Do you need VR sound? I could be your guy. Like, get more involved in the sales process. I guess this is what I could do better. But I read a lot of books, like how to win friends, and I'm not sure what's the book, but something like that. I guess you know it. Or like Never Eat Alone is also a book that I really appreciated. That how do you even network? Like, how do you connect with people? Because I was alone. Yeah, I started alone. I knew like a few people who were also doing something. And so I reached out, and not everybody was happy that I was doing that. And of course, there was this period, especially with my parents, who were like, maybe you should go just to, I don't know, to to Bayerischer Rundfunk, the local public television, and hire there. And now I'm happy I did not, and I could not think like going back. But I saw the demand. I saw that people suddenly called me without me knowing them, and this just gave me clues of, okay, I should really risk it. What do I have to lose? Like, I could just get unemployed or just find another job, but let's just try to make it work. And I try to find solutions how to make it work.
Yeah, it sounds like a real bravery. I just learned recently, because I think that, I was at least like confused about what brave is. And somebody was saying like, yeah, actually bravery is not being fearless of everything, like not having no fear.
Yeah.
But it is actually experiencing a lot of fear, but still take action in a direction that you are scared to go. And I think that this is amazing for our listeners to hear, because I think that once again, it's just it really requires bravery to stand out and make a decision like that. And really, like you said, you were aware of the risk of like, okay, maybe I'm gonna fail, and maybe, my parents are right, and maybe it's gonna be like I will have to find another job somewhere else and start maybe, from some kind of beginning somewhere else,